but unfortunately, politics and events don't rest, and they always seem to be moving, and unfortunately, there's a lot of things that have been happening that we haven't had a chance to comment on. So I want to kind of start there with what's going on within New York City. It's frustrating in a way because I don't like to keep talking about something consistently when there should be resolutions to these issues. One of them was stop and frisk. We talked about that. We talked about the situation. We had a judge make a competent decision based on facts and information, and then we had this appellate court to make a decision about her being biased, Bert, I think it was, or
yes, being not impartial enough.
Interesting. They didn't say anything about the facts of the case. They just
Yes, the merits of the case were not in question at this point. They hadn't ruled on that or made a determination about the facts, I mean the merits itself, or a decision about the merits. There's no question on that yet.
Yeah, what they're concentrating on is the fact that they feel that she was not impartial throughout the process. They mentioned something to the fact that she steered the case to her courtroom even before it actually became her case officially. And they're also saying that she commented in terms of allegedly giving interviews to the New Yorker or some magazines about the case during the time that the case was going on. And while I could understand that if that's not something that you should do, I'm just concerned that we're going to get back to, like you said, not concentrating on the main issue, which is the facts of stop and frisk and whether or not it's a valid practice or a discriminatory practice.
no one is talking about how the case has been steered to a more conservative judge now. Someone who we know, and based on what they even reported in the news, is not necessarily anti-stop and frisk. So I think it's all politics. I think that people are looking for a particular outcome, and they directed the case to who they wanted to get it, so that they can kind of turn back the clock. Now, the last time I checked, this is the United States, at least this city is. This is not South Africa. This is not Cape Town. We don't need to have papers to be able to walk around in the city. And if you can disenfranchise people's ability to live life as a human being in this city, what are we talking about? And if people can't see that, if we've had since Bloomberg and even took over, because it got worse underneath Bloomberg, you have millions of people being stopped, and no one seems to care because it doesn't affect their community. And then you have an ignorant comment from Bloomberg talking about, well, we shouldn't be stopping white people as much as we're stopping them.
Well, I think the police department should actually be ashamed over the fact that they're putting all of their eggs in the fact that this is the practice that's changed the whole crime rate in New York City, because I would think there's other things that they could do, that's part of police training and proper policing that would contribute to that as well. And if they're not talking about anything else and they're just saying this is the only reason why the crime rate's gone down, then basically it's saying that this is the only thing we know how to do as police officers. So I think they really need to maybe examine or maybe explain to the public what they feel are the criteria for good policing, because you need to have other things in terms of observation, things that are more within the legal ramifications where you're not violating the rights of several other people as you go along and catch certain criminals in the process.
Well, I mean, part of the problem is that people were saying, well, let's look at the economic situation that occurs in these communities, which force these young people to do the things that they're doing and drive up this crime rate. So then one guy said, well, why can't they get them, the city hire some of these people to be involved? And I said, well, look, we can't even get them to hire them as firemen. People that's qualified and passed the test, so how are we going to get them into the city to do anything else other than that?
I'm glad you pointed that out about the firemen. We had the judge, Garofis, who was determined to deal with the fire case and ordered the city to hire almost 300 firemen.
Right.
Because they've been discriminating since the time the fire department was initiated. Now, in this case, this judge made some excellent decisions in terms of that the way the city was using stop and frisk violated the 4th Amendment and the 14th Amendment.
Right.
The 4th Amendment in terms of probable cause, search and seizure, violating that, and the 14th Amendment about equal protection. Now, those decisions have not been stayed. The court ordered the case remanded back to the new judge. But particularly what they did, her remedies, they said she can't institute, or the new judge cannot institute those new remedies. However, some of this case may be mooted out because the new mayor has decided or has indicated that he is going to withdraw the appeal of the case. In fact, one of the judges even said that may happen anyway, because it's not until after March that the case will be heard on appeal. So if the appeal is withdrawn, her decision still stands regarding the merits of the case itself.
And the thing that's interesting about that, Bert, is what's the lesson that we learn from this particular case? Make sure you vote, right?
That's right. That's right.
Because Joe Loder said, well, this is not, the policy is doing exactly what it should be doing. This is based off of what the Supreme Court has ruled is legal, and we should be able to do what we're doing. And so what we need to do is stop and search him for some votes, because he didn't get any.
There was a demonstration, I think, today against asking Mayor Bloomberg to drop the case now because it's going to be dropped anyway. Don't waste time continuing with it.
Well,
Waste
Loder
money.
probably didn't get any votes because his commercials were too old. I mean, once you start showing commercials of graffiti inside of trains, then you know you've gone back a little bit too far.
Right. Yeah. Again, and I don't personally know him. I know he ran the MTA, and I didn't like how the money got allocated there, because I know certain communities, the service got worse in those communities, while other communities, they got better. So, I mean, there might be some profiling going on there in terms of the services in certain communities, because I know that in Brooklyn that the train service got worse than it ever was before he even got there. And some of these newfound technical advances he's talking about, those things haven't really panned out, and no one's talked about the financial issues that are still existing within the MTA, when he was running it. So, I mean, I would say to myself, it's a good thing he didn't take over, because now they're arguing. This is the thing I heard these pundits talking about. Well, you know, what's the mayor-elect again?
De Blasio.
He doesn't have any governing skills. He doesn't have any management skills or whatever. Who knows how to manage a city? You have people that you appoint around you to help you do the job. What, is he sitting in the office by himself, that's looking through thousands of papers and making all decisions? I mean, it's the stupidest argument I ever heard.
Are we going back to that from when, didn't we hear that when the president was first elected?
Right,
You know?
exactly.
I mean, it's the same story over and over again, as if people can't surround themselves with the resources that they need.
Right.
And, I mean, if you're intelligent enough to make certain decisions, he obviously has some knowledge about the political aspect of the job. So, I mean, it's ridiculous.